Hello and welcome to the Global Trade Made Easy podcast. In this podcast, we speak to the global trade leaders, innovators, and influencers from around the world and Australia. We talk about ideas that can disrupt your organization, industry, or even careers. So let's dig in. In today's show, we are going to speak to Dylan Skeens from Austral Fisheries. Austral Fisheries is one of the largest fishing organizations in Australia and probably the Southern Hemisphere. So I would like to welcome Dylan. Dylan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Dylan, tell us about Austral Fisheries and what does it do as an organization?
Our headquarters are based in Perth here in Western Australia. And as you said, we're the largest producers of wild-caught seafood in Australia. We have vessels that operate all around the country, and we sell lots of our catch on the Australian domestic market, but we also export globally to around 15 countries now. USA, China, and Hong Kong are probably the three biggest markets that we supply. We're famous for our provenance branded seafood, as such as Glacier 51 toothfish, the Skull Island tiger prawns, and the Karumba banana prawns from in the north. And these can be found on some of the best Michelin star restaurants around the world.
What is your role in Austral Fisheries? What do you do?
Yeah, I've been with Austral Fisheries for 20 years now, and I'm now the general manager of sales and marketing for the business. I started as a deckhand with Austral back in 2002, and now I'm managing a sales portfolio of around $120 million.
How does your team look like? You being the general manager, sales and marketing, how do you operate?
We've got, although we're quite a big footprint on the world stage of supplying seafood, we've only got a really tiny team here in Perth. In sales and marketing, we have myself and then 4 individual sales reps for different areas. And then in the export docks, we have 2 or 3 people there running that side for us.
We have been in uncertain conditions, pandemic and post-pandemic. What has been your experience of last, let's say, 12 to 24 months?
Right now, business is fun again. You know, you can actually get out and meet customers and travel, but it's still frustrating. There's a lot of business still to be done, but we've got a lot of logistical hurdles, short supply, lack of manufacturing of important consumables to keep your business going. People, that's been number one for us, been the most important challenge in Australia, not just our business, but ensuring we have enough people to keep the business going and, attracting new talent for the future. Securing enough consumables like packaging and vessel parts to keep the business going. If your lead time for, say, packaging was 2 months previously, it's now 6 months. So you really got to stay on top of that. Controlling the increasing costs at the moment. The price of diesel, for example, that's running amok. It's gone through the roof for our vessels. Freight in general has been pretty tough. Exported and local. We've had many challenges with the lack of containers, limited vessels, truck drivers with COVID, missing pallets. It really is a nightmare part of the business. For example, right now in Mauritius, we've got around $20 million worth of Glacier 51 toothfish sitting on the wharf, just because we can't get a vessel to call past Port Louis to pick it up. Container ships are omitting the port because they're full or they're required to go to a different part of the world. So, yeah, that's been really tough for us. They're some of the challenges that we've been faced with.
How are you managing the situation?
Freight and logistics area has been the real bottleneck. So we're offering as much support as we can into that area. Talking to others out there, if your budget allows, perhaps add an extra person into that area. Add some extra horsepower there to ensure your business can keep going along. It's been, as I said, it's been a real bottleneck. I know we've got a really small team that's under the pump every day, getting product on ships and trucks and punching out the documentation that's required. We're sort of splitting up our team a little bit over time because we work globally. We've got a lot of emails coming in, 24/7. So you can't just have your people in for that 8 hours a day. We sort of split up our team a little bit just to stay on top of emails there. The other thing that we're doing is the significant increase in costs. We're making sure that our team are obtaining and rechecking quotes on freight and logistics all the time. We're finding major differences between all the different service providers. Definitely have to keep on top of that. The prices are acceptable one week, but next week they're not so palatable. So really stay on top of that. Yeah, that's really about it.
I understand you are now in 15 countries. In this last, let's say, couple of years, did you have to find new markets, or how did you go about the revenue side of things?
Tried to support the markets that have traditionally supported us over the years, not really go and look for new markets. China was a big market for our product, and during COVID, we lost a lot of supply there, but we did manage to divert a lot of our toothfish and prawns into the US. So we're able to sort of just pivot there. But luckily for Austral, our catch was pretty much split retail and food service. If your business was only supporting food service during COVID, that's when it was a bit of a struggle and you had to pivot and try and find some retail sales. So we were lucky that we had some business in retail already, and we just sort of pumped the retail a little bit more during COVID until the restaurant scene came back.
My assumption at the moment is that because the freight is increasing for everybody, not just in Australia, would it mean that from competitiveness perspective, would we be similar to other suppliers or other countries, or how do you see that?
Yeah, I think every country is having the same freight issues. We're capitalising on the countries where we've got the free trade agreements in place as well, so that's having a little bit more positive impact on our sales. But yeah, definitely, I think everyone's having issues with freight. Just finding containers to put your product in.
Looking at the future and even the present, what do you see seafood industry the situation is? And how do you see next couple of years?
We'd like to have lots of growth. Obviously, that would be nice. But I think the next 12 months will be just trying to keep things going best we can, controlling costs, getting product to our customers and getting paid. Getting paid's a major priority. Being in the wild capture sector, we cannot increase our catch to get more growth. We can only deal with what Mother Nature provides us each year. So it's about operating smarter, not harder, and trying to maximise those returns. But in the last couple of years during COVID, we've seen two types of shoppers. Been the one that's doing it tough, really watching their spending, buying, cheap and affordable seafood where they can. And then there's another type of shopper that's emerging, one that's really turning into that conscious sustainability shopper, one that seeks out the sustainability claims, plastic-free, recyclability, carbon neutral, animal ethics. They're ultimately looking to make a difference with their purchase. Our strategy for growth, or the next 12 months, marrying up our product offerings to consumers like this and aligning our sales with retailers and restaurants that value the value of our values. That's our strategy for growth. We've been working hard to eliminate plastic from our range of packaging. We'll make it 100% recyclable. And our carbon neutral seafood also speaks to a growing area of demand whilst looking after the planet.
If I'm hearing you right, what your strategy is premium market? Do you want to target the high end of the market, which is looking for sustainable premium products as opposed to going after the cost conscious market segment? Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's right. And I think our products used to be commodity based, and we probably didn't know where they sort of fit and where they ended up. About 8 years ago, we made a conscious effort to try and brand all of our seafood with provenance and a real ocean to plate story. And that's elevated the products onto that sort of the higher end niche markets around the world. We like to think that, we've been told to look after this last wild resource on the planet. So we take sustainability very seriously, and we believe that we're leaders in this space in terms of the production of that seafood and also the global distribution of that product. So we basically have two pillars to our sustainability at Austral. First being looking after the fish stock itself. So all of our wild catch is independently certified sustainable by the Marine Stewardship Council in London. That's an independent certification which basically certifies that we're looking after the fish stocks and harvesting the product in a sustainable manner. In terms of Glacier 51 toothfish, as an example, it means that we're only taking less than 10% of the biomass each year. So we're really only scratching the surface down there every year. But in addition to looking after the fish stocks and the fisheries resource, we are and we're the first seafood company in the world to become certified carbon neutral. So 100% of our carbon emissions are offset by planting 200,000 Australian native trees here in Western Australia each year to offset our emissions.
I'm quite keen to know when you say What is that story?
Yeah, a good example. For a long time, I used to just sell tiger prawns as a commodity, and you would offer that to a customer based in Hong Kong, and he would ask you for the price, and I'd say, oh, it's $20 a kilo, and he'd say, I can buy tiger prawns from your competitor at $18 US. So naturally, I had to come down to that level to meet the market and sell the product. And we thought, you know what, this product's a fantastic product. It's got a great backstory. It's wild. It's caught in an amazing location. It's got a great ocean to plate story. We should be branding this provenance story in a bid to try and get this on some of the best markets in the world and, get out of that price market, get into that brand market where they want it because it's it sells well. With the tiger prawns that we actually catch them off an island, a real island called Skull Island in the Gulf of Carpentaria. So we branded all of our tiger prawn catch Skull Island tiger prawns. The effect of that doesn't happen overnight. It takes branding products is a 3 to 5 year journey, but now that brand is on some of the best menus around the world and people phone up and ring just to buy the Skull Island tiger prawn. We've elevated ourselves out of that commodity space. When somebody phones us up now and they want to buy a Skull Island tiger prawns for 30 US, we can say, well, ours are actually 35. And really, we're the only shop in town that's got that product. So it really has elevated us out of that commodity space.
That's a brilliant story. Okay, well done. I mean, this is what I guess the exporters around the world and in Australia would like to find out what can they do to have their own stories, right? So it's a fantastic story, and I'm glad that we talked about that.
Yeah, well, the first one was Glacier 51 toothfish. So that was the first product that we branded by provenance, and everything we learned off that was then we went, wow, there's some real ingredients in there to brand the rest of our products. So yeah, Glacier 51 was the first product, and then obviously Skull Island came behind that, and then Karumba, and this year we're about to launch a couple of new brands as well.
I also picked up on something in the news. You are also going hybrid in terms of boats.
A lot of our boats quite old, built in the 70s, not a lot of new technology, but we're slowly replacing those now with new vessel builds. The latest of our toothfish vessels, the Cape Arcona, basically a hybrid, so almost like the Prius of a fishing vessel. So it's got almost like a big Tesla battery bank on board. So, when that vessel's alongside, we can just completely run off battery power and save on using diesel fuel. But the future is to try and, not use diesel at all. It's a very exciting space, not just for fishing vessels, but all types of maritime vessels. On the day that we can not use diesel and operate these vessels with a diesel replacement, which is environmentally friendly, that's going to be a game changer for food production. I think it's the first of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere, particularly in Australia. But in our northern countries, I think they're well advanced with that. Definitely diesel electric vessels is quite common now with the new build. Yeah, aborting diesel altogether, that's the future, and there's a lot of projects underway at the moment, whether it's fishing or shipping or just general maritime. There's definitely a move towards that.
How do you make your operations more efficient, or what are the kind of improvements that you have done or you're planning to do to lift the game?
Reducing the amount of diesel that we use is definitely high on the list, but we work in wild capture fisheries. So, we just can't go and catch another 1,000 tonne to increase our profits and margins. We get what's Mother Nature gives us, or what the government has come up with and the scientists as a quota. So we only get a set amount of fish and prawns each year. So, to increase your margins and profitability on that, you really have to get smarter in the way you sell your product. One, through this provenance branding that we spoke about, trying to get more money through that ocean to plate story. And secondly, really just controlling your costs. We spoke about that earlier, more so than any other year. With the increases we're getting this year, you've really got to have a team looking at that week to week to make sure that any increase you get in price from your branded products, that you're not losing all that with the extra costs.
So what sort of advice would you give to, let's say, new seafood exporters or even existing seafood exporters, your peers, you being one of the leading or probably one of the largest, if not the largest organization in this industry?
Post-COVID, there's been a lot of emails coming from different countries and different importers saying that they're the biggest importer of XYZ seafoods. So you've really got to be able to sift through all that to work out who is actually the real deal in that particular country. So I would be getting a bit of a dialogue up with, say, a new customer there, having those Zoom links and calls calls with them. But one of the best things we can do now, and if you feel comfortable with international travel, is get on a plane and get to your next sort of trade show where you can do that face-to-face interaction again. I think we've all had enough of emails, WhatsApp and LinkedIn and Instagram. It's time to start being human again and visiting some of these potential clients. Other areas of suggestions would be, probably just to start small. If someone's saying they can take 340 footers of a particular product, take that with a grain of salt. Maybe start off with a small air shipment or a smaller light container. Always ask for at least a 30% deposit with any new business. Don't ship anything off without any sort of deposit. Make sure you've got that covered, particularly with a new customer. But yeah, depending on what sort of product it is, understanding those markets, like in seafood, we know that, US and Asia are big for us. Yeah, really focusing on the areas that are big on your particular product.
Excellent. Thank you. That's really good advice. Thinking of the new countries and then you did mention about the free trade agreements. Australia is about to sign a free trade agreement with India. I'm not sure what's your view about that market.
India are definitely on our radar, and the free trade agreement there between the two countries will help. And for me, for the last 20 years, we've exported to countries outside of India, but India is a sleeping giant for me. I think a massive population, lots of cities, emerging hotel business, high-end hotel business. And with our products, we started at the start of the show there. They're very high-end and niche, but we think, there's hotel groups and restaurant chains in India that would definitely benefit from, these ocean to plate stories that we've got. We've just started doing some business in India this year. So our first sea freight container of Glacier 51 toothfish will be going to India next month, actually. That tells you that market is starting to kick off. And once that FTA comes into place, I think we'll see more and more business.
I wish you all the best for the next period of time. We will see you when we are in Perth next time. Thanks for being on the show. And it was a fantastic conversation. So thanks a lot.
Hopefully we provided some insights. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sure the exporters in the industry and others will benefit from this conversation. Thank you very much.